Greetings, friends. I am Siddhartha Gautama, and I will share the story of my life with you, from my childhood to my final moments, in the simplest way I know. I was born over 2,500 years ago, in a place called Lumbini, in what is now Nepal. My mother, Queen Maya, gave birth to me while traveling. I was born in a peaceful garden under a tree. As soon as I was born, I took 7 steps, and a lotus flower bloomed beneath my feet. It was said that I was destined for greatness. My father, King Suddhodana, was the ruler of the Shakya people. He wanted me to become a great king and shielded me from the suffering of the world, thinking this would keep me on the path of ruling. I lived in the palace surrounded by luxury, and I was given everything I could ever need. But even as a child, I felt something was missing. I could not shake the feeling that there was more to life than what I saw. When I was young, my father kept me inside the palace to protect me from seeing suffering. But one day, when I was old enough, I ventured outside the walls. This was the moment that changed my life. As I walked through the streets, I saw an old man, weak and frail. I had never seen such a person before. I asked my charioteer, "What is this?" He explained that this is what happens to everyone. Old age comes to us all. Then, I saw a sick person lying on the side of the road, in pain and suffering. I asked, "What is this?" The charioteer explained that illness is something that can strike anyone, even the strongest. Finally, I saw a dead body being carried by mourners. I asked, "What is this?" The charioteer told me that death comes to all living beings, and it is unavoidable. These 3 sights, old age, sickness, and death, left a deep mark on my heart. I realized that no matter how much we try to protect ourselves, suffering is a part of life. This truth filled me with sorrow, and I knew I had to find a way to understand it fully. Despite my father's wishes, I could not ignore the questions growing in my heart. I had everything: wealth, power, comfort, but it was clear that none of this could shield me from the realities of life. One night, I made a decision. I would leave the palace, my family, and my life of luxury, in search of the answers to the suffering I had witnessed. I left behind my wife, Yasodhara, and my newborn son, Rahula. It was the hardest decision of my life, but I knew I had to seek the truth. I wandered for many years, seeking wisdom. I studied under many teachers and practiced various forms of meditation and asceticism. I thought that by denying the body and living in extreme austerity, I could find the path to freedom from suffering. I ate very little, barely slept, and pushed my body to its limits. But even after years of such practices, I found no lasting peace. One day, I realized that the extreme path of self-denial was not the answer. I recalled a moment from my childhood when I was sitting under a tree, and my mind was peaceful. In that moment, I understood that true peace comes from balance, not from extremes. I decided to follow a middle path, a path between indulgence and self-mortification. I sat under a fig tree, later known as the Bodhi tree, in a place called Bodh Gaya. I made a vow to myself: I would sit here until I had discovered the truth of life, no matter how long it took. As I meditated, I was challenged by many distractions: doubt, fear, and desire. But I remained focused, and over time, the fog of confusion began to lift. In the stillness of my meditation, I began to see clearly. I realized that suffering is a natural part of life, and it comes from our desires and attachments. I saw that we suffer because we crave things, because we cling to what is temporary, whether it's pleasure, success, or even life itself. I understood that the way to end suffering is to let go of these attachments. In that moment of deep insight, I became awakened. I became the Buddha, the awakened one. I had discovered the path to the end of suffering. After my enlightenment, I began to teach others what I had learned. I shared the Four Noble Truths, the core of my teaching. 1. The truth of suffering, dukkha, ***, life involves suffering. Birth, aging, sickness, and death are all forms of suffering, and even the pleasures of life are temporary and unsatisfying. 2. The truth of the cause of suffering, ***, the cause of suffering is desire or craving, tanha. We desire what we cannot keep: wealth, relationship, success, and even life itself. This craving leads to suffering. 3. The truth of the end of suffering, ***, the end of suffering is possible. When we let go of attachment and craving, we can be free from suffering. 4. The truth of the path to the end of suffering, ***, there is a path to end suffering, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. It consists of right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. This path is the way to live a life of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. By following it, we can gradually reduce our suffering and eventually reach nirvana, the state of complete peace and freedom. For many years, I traveled and shared my teachings. I spoke to kings, merchants, farmers, and beggars. I taught that all people, regardless of their background or social status, can attain enlightenment. My message was simple: through understanding the nature of suffering and practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, anyone can achieve liberation. One of my first followers was a merchant named Anathapindika, and many others joined me, including my own son, Rahula, and my cousin, Ananda, who became my devoted companion and assistant. I formed a community of monks and nuns who dedicated their lives to practice and to helping others. As I grew older, I continued to teach and guide those who sought the truth. One day, I knew that my time in this body was coming to an end. I was staying in a small town called Kushinagar, and I asked my followers to gather around. I told them that all things are impermanent, even the body, and that we must let go of our attachments. I said to them, "Be a light unto yourselves. Strive on with diligence. All compounded things are subject to decay. Strive with clarity, for your liberation is at hand." Then, I entered a state of deep meditation, and my body began to decay. I passed away peacefully, reaching nirvana. My physical form was no more, but the teachings I left behind remain. The path I showed can be followed by anyone, at any time, to end suffering and find true peace. This is the story of my life, friends. I was born like any other person, lived through struggles, and sought the truth. I found that the truth is simple. Suffering exists, but so does the way to end it. It is within each of us to awaken to the truth and walk the path of wisdom, kindness, and peace. May you, too, find peace in your journey and live a life free from suffering.